Hi and welcome back. It's time to come back with Expert Talks, but this time with a really interesting and bold statement about trust being the new currency. Is this really the case? And is trust something we can earn from our employees? It's my pleasure to introduce Maša Vlahović as a host of this Expert Talk from HR World Organization and Jelena Marković from Coinis. And if you haven't heard about Coinis so far, this is the perfect opportunity to do so. Maša, Jelena, welcome to HR Week.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you for the introduction. Hi.
Okay, girls, it's lovely to have you here. Good luck with your session, and we're really interested to hear more about trust being a new currency. As I said, very bold statement. So we're going to see if this is really the case. Have fun.
Thank you.
So I'm totally used to being in the moderator seat. So I'm just gonna briefly introduce you, and then I'm gonna let you, add a bit of info about yourself. So I'm very happy that you're here with me because you have a bit of background in psychotherapy, and then you moved to coaching, then you moved to HR. And I really think this is a perfect blend of experiences when it comes to the topic that we're covering today. And this is a significant topic that we have today, primarily because mental well-being and mental health in general in organizations is something that we're talking about on a daily basis. And last year when we were talking about mental health here at HR Week, we thought it was just going to be like a hot topic and that everyone's going to be talking about mental health only until the COVID crisis lasts. But I'm very happy that that's not the case and that we're still here talking about it. So Jelena, welcome. I'm very glad that you're here. Could you tell us something?
I was very happy to be here, and I'm super excited that I'm going to have this conversation with you, actually. So, yay.
Perfect. So I'm going to let you tell us a bit about your experience and how you came into the whole, mental health scene and what you're doing in your company.
Okay. So in my company, I'm a chief HR officer. And I'm super happy that Coinis is one of those very smart companies that recognize the importance of HR. So HR is the executive level management in Coinis, which if you're going to implement some new strategies is very awesome. But my first intention, actually, when I was starting my career, wasn't to go into HR world at all. What I wanted to do was to take care of other people's mental health. And that's actually a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. So I'm a certified business coach. And then after doing some coaching with some clients, I realized, okay, I want to dig in deeper. So that's when I decided to complete the education for psychotherapy. And right now I'm working as psychotherapist under supervision. So that's like half of my job and career is in the HR, and then the other half is in psychotherapy. And what I'm trying to do and what I'm really, really passionate about is seeing how the two can meet. So how can we bring something which is so personal, such as psychotherapy, where I cover the topics of, details from the most intimate parts of people's lives, and how can we implement the knowledge that I gained there into the modern HR?
Thank you very much for sharing your experience. And I like the fact that you mentioned, how all of the topics actually intertwine and how they are deeply connected in the sense. And what I want to know from your experience and your insight, let's say, is what's your opinion and how do you, let's say, approach the topic of mental health being as stigmatized as it is here in our Balkan region, especially in the professional context, because we know that it's stigmatized in both contexts, in both personal and professional.
Well, I have to say that I consider myself to be very lucky, and here is why. From my experience, mental health topics are more stigmatized among people who are 40 plus. And the Coinis, the company that I work in, the average age here is around 30. So younger generations are being exposed to social media, Instagram, TikTok, and everything, where mental health topics have been really, really hot topics for a while now. So I wouldn't say that mental health is as stigmatized as it used to be. However, I agree with you that in business setting, we always tend to make separation, like try to find a clear line between personal life and business life. So then we are always saying like, these are my personal matters and I'm going to leave them in front of the office when I come in, and then I go to work, and then the personal matters wait for me and business matters stay in the office. And from my experience, that is not true. We are not some weird machines that can just be switched on and off. So what this coin is trying to do is create a strategy that's going to help people be human beings. And this is the biggest focus that we have. So first, we didn't approach mental health as something which is like, one of those taboo topics, because we don't believe it's a taboo topic. So that set the tone for everybody in our company. From the very beginning, when I started working here, I was very open about me going to psychotherapy. I would always share my experience from how it is to be a client. And I just tried to normalize as much as possible taking care of your mental health. And for me, this is like the basic necessities, like you go to checkups, or you go to gynecologist, or you go to do the, annual ultrasound and stuff like that. And also you take care of your mental health. So what we try to do is normalize the mental health topic. But also I think that people really want mental health topic to be normalized. So there is this like really awkward, in my opinion, this really awkward stage where mental health is right now. On one hand, people don't want to talk about it. There is still a little bit of like, oh, I'm going to therapy, but I'm going to keep it a secret. But then on the other hand, there is this huge thirst for mental health to be taken care of. And people are realizing the need more and more. And what we are trying to do is maybe even ignore a little bit the awkward part and stay completely focused on the part that says, okay, I have this need, let's find a way to fulfill it here.
Amazing. Thank you very much. So in terms of that and everything that you said, I want to know whether coaching actually helped in the process of shaping your function as it is, because I think your colleagues from other organizations might be, jealous of the fact that you have such an open yet such a strategic function within the organization that you're working in. So did coaching help? Did a certain, let's say, process in your life or formal education help in the sense of forming a personality of CHRO?
Coaching helped, of course, and I think that all money I invested in education, in my personal coaching journey, in psychotherapy, is the money well spent. So, of course, I think it's the best thing. However, what I think is the most strategic investment an HR personally can make is actually a psychotherapy. Because in order to normalize mental health, you have to be very open about it. And in order to be open about it, you have to be willing to be exposed and a little bit vulnerable in front of your colleagues and in the business setting. And if you're in a stage where the anxiety level in your personal life is a little bit high, then it's going to be very challenging for you as an HR officer to take care of other people's mental health or to deal with their issues. So for me, I think that everything starts with self. And I think that all HRs who are highly interested in implementing good mental health policies in their companies should also be very, very open to idea to going through their personal stuff with their psychotherapist. And I know that people always say, no, you shouldn't mix the two. What does it matter if I go to see my therapist and then I talk to them about, I don't know, the issues I had with my parents when I was 5? How does that relate to my workplace right now? And it's hard to explain, but it works. And it's one of those things where you just have to give it a go, give it a try, and then see how that will actually affect the way you're treating your job and colleagues you're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the fact that everything that you're saying is totally aligning with the statement that we have within our organization, which is, if we develop people within organizations who actually develops HR. But that's the point, working on ourselves allows us to actually work with other people and make them better and try to actually provide them with a chance to grow and develop. So that's an amazing point. And in regards to that, and in lines of everything that we've been mentioning, I want to know, when it comes to mental health, how important is it to actually have support and have initiative coming from the HR department and from the top? From the top management, from executives, from everyone on the top?
I think it's actually a crucial matter. And for me, it's really impossible to imagine a company that is highly successful, where everybody who is going to work feels miserable and anxious and depressed all the time. And there is just something very, very wrong in that setting. And the feeling of safety, for me, is one of the highest priorities that should generally be considered in the workplace. And that safety, on one hand, means physical safety, like we are trying to create an environment which feels physically safe for the people who are working there. But mental safety is something that should be considered as also highly relevant and important. So I'm really happy that people are starting to realize that mental health is actually a strategic question. Because at the beginning, when we started with this narrative, it sounded like something nice and fun, like, oh, this is a nice toy. As you mentioned in the introduction, this is a nice toy that we can give people and let's talk about it. It's like the new hot topic, but it's not just that. And in Coinis, we have some really, really good policies that we are working on right now that are actually very well thought. We were thinking about it. We were working hard on making them part of our strategies. So if it's okay with you, I would like to share maybe some of those strategies to inspire somebody else. Oh, okay. So the first thing that I would like to explain is how I started working in Coinis. So I was hired to do some workshops about mental health communication, assertive approach to business and stuff. And then they said, okay, we like you. Would you like to come and be the person who is in charge of our employees' mental health? Like, come a couple of times a week, people can come to you, they can talk a little bit, you can see what's bothering them, and then we can see how we can work from there. And that actually turned out to be the single most important decision we made when it comes to mental health, and that is nurturing the one-on-one conversations we have with our employees. So it started like me being an external therapist and counselor to employees here, but then I just stayed. I loved them, and I guess they loved me back. So one-on-one conversations, I think, is the crucial thing that everybody can implement, which should be a really safe space where people can express their needs, their desires, what bothers them, what they like, dislike. And just give them the opportunity to be seen and heard. And from there, we developed the rest of our strategy. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm the smart therapist, I'm going to come here and tell you what to do. It was like, okay, I'm a very empathetic listener, I'm going to come and hear you. And then the second thing I did was standing up for people and for what I believed in. And I think that lots of I don't like to generalize, but I see that from lots of my colleagues in HR, there is this huge problem of people pleasing, where I'm trying to be people pleaser on one hand when it comes to employees, but then on the other hand, when it comes to C-level management, where I'm so people pleasing that I'm afraid to stand up to my boss and to say, no, we will not do this, and fight for what we actually believe for. Luckily, my position in company was so strange from the beginning that I felt like I have a lot of space to say no, but you cannot do this. And for me, I would always at the beginning say, come on, you hired me as external consultant. You wanted me to tell you what's the best thing you can do, and I'm telling you. You're not paying me to tell you what you want to hear. So that's how it started, and that approach was actually really good. So from there, we developed lots of different strategies. For example, in Coinis, we have something which we call Mental Health Day, where we allow people, they have unlimited number of mental health days per year. And the only thing they have to do is say, hi, I don't feel like coming to work today. And then that's it. You're going to be immediately approved. And at the beginning, there was this huge fear that people are going to misuse it. We were so afraid that people are going to, I just need a mental health day and then nobody's going to work ever. But it actually didn't happen, because from my experience, people really like to work. They like to contribute and to have something meaningful to do. But at the same time, nobody likes to work all the time. And we wanted to give that space to people to say, okay, I feel anxious right now. I just don't feel like it. And then to say, okay, it's fine. You don't have to do that. The second thing, the third thing, which I think is super important, is because I'm the part of executive management in Coinis, every decision that we are making, there is always a voice in the room which is asking, how is this going to affect people's mental health? And now they're making fun of me a little bit because of that, because they're like, we cannot say this is going to be the new strategy because Jelena is not going to approve. But I think it's actually very good to have the problem seen from many different perspectives. And one of the perspectives should be the mental health. So that's why we are trying to involve people in all big strategic decisions we are making. For example, we are building actually this huge new building where our new offices are going to be. And we ask people, okay, what do you want to see in the new office? And then we sit down with an architect, we make a plan, and then we send that plan to everybody and say, okay, this is our new plan now. What do you think about that? And of course, not everybody's wish can be fulfilled, but people are adult. I mean, they understand that it's impossible to have 80 or 100 people who are going to be happy about every single decision. So for me, it's not about how to make people happy, because I don't think that happiness should be imperative, actually. For me, it's how to make decisions that are going to be healthy for the people. And there is a huge difference between the two, because happiness can be achieved in short term. You can take drugs and be happy in short term. You can say, I'm going to quit and spend all my money gambling. And in short term, you're going to be happy. But in long term, it's not going to be the healthiest decision for you. So for me, the approach is, okay, how to make everybody mentally healthy, and give them space to explore what makes them happy, but also give them the space to explore how does it feel to be anxious at work? How does it feel to make a mistake and then feel guilty about it? How does it feel to be sad, to actually sit with all emotions? So this is how I think that the therapy actually meets HR, because in therapy, it's never a must that the client has to be happy. It's always a must that you have to acknowledge what's happening and then be able to sit with everything that's happening. So yeah, I don't know if I'm being a little bit like too broad in explaining how.
No, absolutely not. And thank you for sharing everything that you're doing, from the little steps to the whole initiative, because I think this is a very rare thing, especially here in the Balkan region. And I think all of the listeners, should take some part of the speech and try to implement it themselves. So in terms of everything that we've been talking about and all of the good practices that you've shared, I would like for you to actually share some of the steps or some little steps that people can take in order to implement a good initiative when it comes to mental health in their organizations.
Okay, so first principles of mental health, and this is from the therapy, so I'm going to start that there. Some of the first principles are that people like to be seen, heard, and to feel safe. So those are the first three things that we should all keep in mind when we are thinking about what we can do in our companies. And when I say to feel seen and heard, it means to give them the space to sit with you one-on-one, to have a short meeting of 15 minutes and just ask your colleagues, how are you? What are you doing on right now? Do you feel frustrated? How can I help? And just be open to hear whatever they have to say, and don't try to convince them that what they're feeling or experiencing is wrong in any way. Don't try to tell them, oh no, but this is going to be so awesome at the end, blah, blah. Just acknowledge however they're feeling. Just give them space to be seen and heard. And those short meetings with colleagues can actually be really, really productive, because once you put your judgment aside and just be open-minded to hear them, you're going to hear lots of very interesting perspectives that are going to help you actually create an HR strategy later. The second thing that I think people can start with is actually take a look at what you have promised people so far, and then make sure that those promises are actually being fulfilled. And I know that people like to think about modern workplaces as being super exciting, but I don't think that the excitement is what we should try for, because excitement is actually really stressful. Imagine being excited all day, every day. It's going to put your nervous system into high alert state. Instead, I think that we should think about how to give them small dosages of excitement with lots of predictability, lots of stability. And in order to have a happy employee, that employee should have a predictable workday. People like routine. People like knowing what's coming next, especially people who have tendency to be highly anxious. So in order to give people predictability, take a look at what you promise them, and then ask yourself question, but be super 100% honest about it. Am I fulfilling all those promises right now? And if you're not fulfilling promises right now, because it happens to us as well, what you should do is actually talk to people and tell them, I know that I promised this, and I know that this is not happening right now, and I'm so sorry for this, and this is why this is not happening. And that's going to give people who work in your company such a huge feeling of, okay, I know what's going to happen next, and I know that whatever agreement we have is going to be fulfilled. Number 3 that I think that you as an HR can do is actually not be afraid of making mistakes. So it's really important that you work on yourself enough that you're completely fine with trial and error process, because in HR there are lots of things like that. And if you have high perfectionism personality, then it's going to be so challenging for you to try anything new, because you're always going to be like, oh my God, what are they going to say about it? So instead, don't be afraid to play, and never let the budget be an excuse, because I think there are billions of awesome things you can do that cost exactly 0. So just a little bit of creativity and predictability and stability can really, really take companies to such new levels that are going to be amazing for people.
And this is such a good way to wrap up the conversation, because we named that trust as the new currency, and everything that we're talking about is actually building trust with employees and actually making them feel heard, feel observed, and actually feeling like they're actually participating in something or co-creating a certain vision. And that's very nice. Thank you very much for sharing. We have questions from the audience, but there's one question that sticks to my mind and I want to ask you about it. And that's, can you comment on Gen Zs and the topic of mental health? What has changed? What are the good things of this revolution and bad things, if there are actually any?
So there is this phenomenon that's happening, is that Gen Z in the Western world and Gen Z in the Balkans is not the same Gen Z. So there is this term, somebody from my younger colleagues told me, it's like zillennials. It's actually people who should be Gen Z, but they're a little bit more like millennials, because, you know, everything is. However, what I think is happening is that Gen Z is the first generation that's going to be very upfront about what they want. And I know that lots of people say, oh, they're so spoiled, they want to have lazy bags and work, and they're blah, blah. But actually, I think this is amazing. This is the evolution that's happening in the business world. And if we are fighting that evolution, we're going to stay stuck on this stage. And when it comes to Gen Z, they're more open, more aware, more self-aware. But at the same time, this is the generation that's been more empathetic than any other generation in the history of humankind. This is the generation that says, okay, let's stop with body shaming. Let's accept all differences. Let's be kinder to each other. So I feel like 10 years ago, my generation was much crueler than they are. And Gen Z is the generation that is realizing the importance of mental health and the value of mental health. So the bad things I see from this revolution is that there is a little bit, first, there is problem with attention. And this is generally like, I think the problem with, as the 21st century is progressing, we will see more and more problems of attention. And that really reflects on the workplace. And the second thing that I see challenging is that this is the generation that likes to rush things a little bit. So sometimes when it comes to training Gen Zs, they're always ready for the next step. Come on. And I feel like they're not giving themselves enough time to appreciate where they are right now and to let some new skills become a little bit firmer in their tool set. On the other hand, there are way more positive things than the negative. And I think that smart companies are the companies that are going to adapt and to really listen to what they need, because Gen Z in 10 years from now is going to be the main workforce in modern industries, especially when it comes to marketing, to edtech companies. And the importance that they have, the input that they can bring to the company, I think is so valuable.
Thank you very much for sharing this. And I totally agree with you, because I know the problems that I have with my attention and everything else happening because of social media and everything else. So I'm not going to take any much of your time. I know that you're hosting a panel discussion in almost 5 minutes. So thank you very much for participating in our expert talk, and see you in 5 minutes.
Thank you, Masha. I enjoyed this conversation so much. See you.
Me too. Thank you very much.
Bye.